Well, we finally have it, the official first look at the James Bond game 007 First Light, made by the Hitman devs IO Interactive. And as a long-time hardcore Bond fan, I've seen every movie multiple times and even read some of the novels, I am very excited. I wanted to take a closer look at the trailer and analyze it a bit because there seems to be a lot of misguided reactions about this new take on Bond. Most importantly, a young Bond. How dare they? Well, actually, this Bond in some ways might be even more accurate to the original novels than the movies people mostly know. In the original novels by Ian Fleming, Bond was always in his mid-30s, and at that point he had been 007 for several years already. The newer movies have done irreparable harm to people's perception of how old Bond is supposed to be. And the weird phenomena where people used to look older is also kinda to blame. Like Sean Connery was only 31 in Dr. No and George Lazenby was only 29 in his only appearance. This new Bond is obviously even younger at 26, but as the story seems to be an origin story of Bond's first mission to earn his 007 status, this mid-20s approach is very accurate and something I'm very happy with. I understand how people might want this more suave, gentlemanly spy we know from the movies, but I'm actually on board with this more loose cannon type of character, and I could see him turning into that more familiar archetype as the games go on if we get the promised trilogy. And this is probably just me geeking too much about it, but I love that they gave him the scar on the cheek, just like Fleming's illustrations of Bond.
And you are? Don't think we've had the pleasure.
Now let's not get ahead of ourselves, James.
Now, we haven't yet gotten confirmation on who is playing James Bond, but the internet has reached the conclusion that it's Patrick Gibson, most famous for portraying young Dexter in the prequel series Dexter the Original Sin. I'm not familiar with him as an actor, but he is an interesting casting choice if the theory is correct. First of all, he is Irish, which will throw some Bond Puritans into rage, as some people really want Bond to actually be British. I am not one of those people because I quite liked Pierce Brosnan, another Irish actor, as Bond. Now, some people are saying that Bond looks too much like an American, which does not compute with me. Maybe it's because I'm neither British or American, or I'm just being low-key racist, but I don't think there is much difference between them, especially in younger people.
Tell me, what do you do, James? Lately, headhunting.
We don't get too many voice lines from Bond, but there is something off with the voice that I just can't put my finger on it. He definitely doesn't have a heavy accent, which I kinda wanted, and there is just something... Maybe it's just the audio mixing in the trailer, so I'll leave my judgment until we see actual full scenes with him. Outside of the characterization of Bond, the trailer has some fun tidbits of info here and there. First of all, Bond's origin seems to be intact. Parents died at the Swiss Alps, he jumped from school to school, and he ends up enlisting in the Navy before being recruited by the British Secret Service MI6.
His superiors all praise his instincts.
And they're all in need of early retirement. Nobody knows what to do with him, Mom.
No. And I suspect he feels the same way.
It's pretty obvious that this woman is M, the leader of MI6 in this iteration of Bond. Also, I love seeing the very classic looking office for her. But who is this man? M. Cousin Greenway, and some of the publications name him as John Greenway, Bond's mentor. So could he be a retiring 00 agent who is gonna train his successor? Could be an interesting storyline, especially when adding this rogue 009 as the assumed main antagonist, similar to Sean Bean in GoldenEye, for example. And who is this younger woman? Maybe a rival agent slash love interest from another country? Hey, this is me from the future. They just revealed at the IO showcase that her name is Isola, so I'm guessing she is Italian, so maybe not a spy, but something else. And while I'm here, I'm also going to ask you to subscribe if you are enjoying the video. Thanks, and now back to Told Me. For locations, we seem to be at least in London, the Carpathian Mountains in Slovakia, and somewhere in the Southeast Asia. The last one kind of reminded me of the location in The Man with the Golden Gun, actually. Also, we do get a twist on the classic.
The name's Bond.
James Bond. He's with me.
Once again, an easy assumption, but this is obviously Moneypenny who guides Bond to meet the Quartermaster Q to get some new cool gadgets. This scene felt weird. I don't blink an eye when you have real life brands in movies, but immediately when it's in a video game it kinda shocks me, but I do get it. The brands are an important part of modern Bond, so having Omega watches and Aston Martins and such makes sense. And speaking of Aston Martin, it seems to be a very intentional choice that Bond is driving a DBS Vantage in this scene, because they also use the DBS in the movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Like, come on, he's even chasing a red car. First I thought maybe they just liked that model for the looks, but that combined with them using the score of On Her Majesty's Secret Service in the trailer means something more to me. The movie in question is the most personal Bond movie out of the old ones, going into Bond's heritage and him getting even married, so them referring to it in the trailer this way feels like them saying, hey, we are going to dive deeper into the character of Bond in our story, and that excites me. Now, I can understand the more skeptical people not being on board with this totally new approach to Bond we haven't seen before. If this project was greenlighted today, I would be too. But this project was approved under the supervision of Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, long-time producers of the Bond franchise, before they sold their creative rights to Amazon earlier this year. So I have trust in their judgment of this new approach. That said, I kinda wished IO Interactive would have taken even a bigger step away from the Bond movie brand. Them having the musical stinger and using the score from an old movie is fun, but they could have just come up with their own stuff, but I guess you need those movie aspects to bring in the more casual audience. And the other thing, I would have loved if the game was a period piece taking place right after the Second World War, for example. I do feel that ultramodern setting takes something away from that classic espionage feel that I love. Like, not having phones and computers adds a layer of difficulty and the gadgets feel more clever. But I get that they want a modern Bond in a modern world, so I won't hold it against it.
So you shouldn't have.
But what about gameplay? Well, I don't like to judge the gameplay before I can actually play the game myself, or at least see longer gameplay previews, but knowing that this is coming from the Hitman devs adds a lot of confidence. They are the modern masters of stealth gameplay and creating awesome sandboxes for players to experiment in. Based on the small clips, the gameplay seems to be a bit more actiony than Hitman, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I hope it's just a trailer and you can, for example, have gadgets that help you do non-lethal, never spotted playthroughs, excluding the action set pieces. And Bond wearing this valet or something uniform is making me think that there could be disguises, which would be cool. I really don't want the game to be just Hitman with a Bond skin, but for the team to actually use their expertise to create a full Bond experience. Overall, I have high hopes that this will finally fulfill on the promises games like Agent Under Fire and Nightfire gave us on the PS2. And that's about it what I wanted to say about the trailer. I'm obviously very excited and the trailer has left the expectations very, very high. I'm curious to see if the game can match them.
I suppose this is another teachable moment.
Now I'll throw the question to you. What are your thoughts on 007 First Light? Are you on board with this new style or still skeptical? I would also love to hear from people who don't really care for the Bond movies. Is this game something you might be interested in? Thank you for watching, and I hope you found the video interesting. Bit different from my usual stuff, but I do want to make more conversational pieces when there is something I feel passionate about. If you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button for more. Thank you and have a great day.